Subcommittee meeting of Tuesday, August 22nd, 2023 at 6 p.m. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the meeting, of the last meeting, which was 2 meetings ago, two months ago?
I was just looking it up. It's, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the meeting from June 27th.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. They pass. Public comment. I don't believe we have anyone in the queue on electronically, and there's no one in the chamber gallery, so seeing none, there is no public comment, and we're moving on to item 4 on the agenda. We'll turn maybe the presentation over to staff. Mr. Sokolak is sitting in for the town manager, Ray Carpentino.
So I'll start with item 4A, remediation site work. We have contracted with a company called Red Technologies. They're from Portland. I believe they're in Portland. They're going to be doing the rehab, which amounts to the excavation of some of the contaminated soils, trucking off, covering other, building a pad site for the barn, the parking area, some other smaller items. They have already started bringing their equipment on site, and they will be starting in earnest next week. The rest of the week is going to be erosion control and silt fencing, anti-tracking pads, that kind of thing. Any questions on that one?
Councilor Malaro?
I have no question.
Councilor Dove?
About how long do they expect that work to go on?
I have their schedule here. They're showing basically through the end of September. The last things they'll be doing are the parking area, pavement markings, signs, and that's like October 2 or 3. So it's 7 weeks roughly.
And then after that, for the remainder of the year, do we have additional phases planned, planting, anything like that, or any other work?
Not at this time, just this work for now. There's going to be some drainage improvements and items like that, but nothing of the planting kind of thing. Well, they have to stabilize the slope where they fell, but nothing with flowers and that kind of items.
Yeah, as far as I know, we don't have a budget
No.
appropriated to buy something like that. Right now, we're on grant money from the state.
Yes. So, any other questions?
Sandy
on that?
Kelly?
No, I'm not emailing, I'm taking notes.
Okay,
I know
okay.
it looks rude.
No.
I forgot my paper.
You know, there would be a time when looking at your cell phone would be a scandal, and
I know.
somebody would post it, right? But now it's like, no, we're
Why
all
isn't-
electronic.
Why isn't she paying attention?
Watch out for those FOIAs.
No, I still use paper.
So my question, have you been out to the site yourself physically within the last 7 days, 10 days?
Now within the last couple of days, as you know, we've had a ton of rain and flooding, so.
I was just curious how the farmers' plots are holding up.
I've driven by them many times going to all these other flooding sites. I did see some material came out onto New Road, so I'm not sure whose plot that is, but there was some erosion that came out.
Okay, because, we had recommended soil erosion standards by a certain federal agency, but farmers
Yeah.
were unable to
Well, that would be during
get involved or
construction.
comply with that.
Yeah, I mean, this is just like the regular field, and it
This is
looks
not
like they
close
lost.
to the farmed fields, is it?
This is so if you're coming up New Road, about halfway up on the farm side, of course, there was some material that I washed through.
Okay.
So,
But it looks like their fields are on a rise, so maybe
They
they're
are.
above that
Yep.
issue.
Yep. So, and you hope their crops stabilize, the roots and all that. And so,
We were told that they weren't going to do soil erosion techniques.
Yeah.
Because they cost money.
yeah.
So we were hoping that maybe a few years into this, we can find a grant to help them do that.
Sure. Yeah, no, I did not go in. as I said, we were more concerned with every other,
Yep.
We're still trying to catch up on phone calls. I still got about 5 or 6 more for tomorrow.
But if it's in good shape,
Yeah,
currently, then we know that that's a litmus test.
right. From what I saw just from the road, except for that little bit, everything else, from the road looked okay.
Yeah, cool. Okay.
Item 4B.
I did have one other question, because I have seen this come up, with the question being asked online a few times, in terms of public access to the site. After this work is done, it's still a project in progress where
Yes.
people cannot, even though there may be a parking area there, that does not mean that it's open. Is that an accurate thing to say?
Correct. There's really nothing there. There's no community gardens yet. That's the next phase down the way. One of the phases. Trails is another phase down the way. And then the next item on the agenda, of course, which is a barn. So if you're ready, I can get into 4B, the barn. So we've been going back and forth. Initially,
That's point 2 under project facts, yes? Are you under the Strasca project facts?
We're on the agenda.
I'm just using the agenda.
Okay, sorry.
The barn is so if you're looking at the attachments, I believe it's the last one in the attachments, it's the barn.
With the graphic.
The graphic, yeah.
Yes.
But I sent an email out yesterday regarding this.
Right.
That whole page is titled Strasca Farm Project, correct?
Yeah,
That
I'm not-
You're discussing?
Yeah, I'm not sure who produced that, but I'm going right now just in general, the barn. I'm just going by the agenda.
Can we then go back after that?
Yeah.
And
We touched on it all.
Again, I already sent out a note from town council last night, so these materials will now be appearing, you'll search them on the website to get to this information by using the Rocky Hill Community Farm. So the new owners will have their new name on there. Rocky Hill is the ownership, and we'll have our name on there. And I did it just before coming here. I went into the little search box, go to the landing page for the town of Rocky Hill, and in the little search box, just write in, right now you type in Strasca, and it brings up the exhibits that were in our packet. And the barn exhibit is there.
Yeah. So.
Things still refer to Strasca because
Right.
they were produced prior to
Yep.
last night's meeting.
Yep. So I believe that's going to be changing. There is a new formal name, which
Yep.
was very recent, probably after the packet was even put together.
Oh, yeah, just last night
Yeah.
at 10 o'clock.
So that'll be updated. But the barn itself, I should say, we go back and forth. So originally, when Mr. Carpentino was Economic Development Coordinator, he did get a quote from Cloder Farm for I think it was a 24 by 40 kit barn, which means somebody would still have to construct it. And then somewhere along the line, it got bumped to a 40 by 60, which is very large. And that's probably going to be cost prohibitive. The kit barn, a 24 by 60, 2 years ago was $85,000. So I got to assume it's going to be closer to 100 now. I happened to be out in that neighborhood last week, so I stopped in and I talked to both Cloder Farm and the barnyard. The barnyard seems this is something they do, but it's more so than Cloder does. But a lot of their stuff is post and beam, which is beautiful, but it's also very expensive. But they do it on site. They have a factory right behind their place. So I have the literature from both places. We need to decide on what size barn we're going to bid. As I said, the 24 by 40 is probably more than adequate. So that's item one. Item two is
24 by 40?
24 by 40 was the size that Ray had a quote for. So,
Right, in our grant request,
Yes.
and that was approved by the state.
Yes.
Got us up around $120,000.
Yeah, so
in terms of a budget, but of
Right.
course, there's a pad and there's
Yep.
other things that go.
Well, they're doing the pad more or less with what we're doing now, and then we'll have to put a foundation. It'll have to be on foundation. So, that's one of the considerations is the size. So then, as this is going to be a new structure, not an existing structure, retrofitting, it's going to require all the building permits. Part of that is a use, and the use is either a barn, which means it's a barn, storage only. They have some that are such as a storage facility, which would be like, one of these places with all the little garages, like Cube, whatever it is. So really, after the barn every other use group requires
Or permits.
sanitary facilities.
They require
Yes.
indoor plumbing is what you're
Indoor
saying.
plumbing. I did speak to the health department, and you cannot use the outdoor porta potty. You need, hand washing facilities and a slop sink. So that kind of puts a little crimp in what we're looking at here. So one of the things we're talking about is we find a structure that we like. We need to come up with some kind of specification, which includes architectural drawings, which is something that we just don't do in-house. There are some companies that will do that for you for a fee. I'm not sure about the Cloder or the other guy here, Barnyard, if they'll just give it, sell us the plans, because they're all going to want to bid on it. As I said, I talked to the guy, one of the guys I talked to said there's really 3 companies around that'll probably bid. There could be more. So, as a new structure, it's going to need a foundation. It's going to, we have to decide stick-built or timber frame. Stick-built's going to be, like a 2x4, 2x6. That's going to be less expensive. The type of siding, T111 obviously is going to be much less expensive than, board and batten. Are we going to have a loft? We're going to need the utilities, so we're going to have to run the electric and the plumbing in. With that, now we're going to need water, which is out on both streets. Sanitary, nothing. So it's going to have to be a septic. So now a septic is $20,000, $30,000 for an engineered system. So, and then the type of roofing, the doors, windows, all that kind of stuff, it needs to be considered. And then we have to put out the bid package, and then award.
Question. Doesn't Cloder Farm or the Barnyard, don't their prices, structures include roof and windows? I mean,
Yes.
that's not.
Yes,
something
it's
you
just,
look at
it's,
separately.
well, it's like the
Or the
pizza
type
principle.
of-
Type, yes. It's not just, we need a
Double pane and all
roof.
that.
Yeah, do you want double pane, insulated,
Those are the variables.
yes, metal roof, shingle roof, everything's gonna have a cost, so we have to decide on the finishes, I guess you'd say.
I see.
So the thought is we rough in, put conduit, whatever we need for that utility space we're gonna need for, the bathroom, ADA compliant, of course, ADA toilet, sink, and then a mop sink, they call it. And, box that out, frame it out, and then in the future, when we have the monies, do the septic and water. But in the meantime, it probably wouldn't be able to be used. This is something we're trying to work through, trying to figure out how we're going to get it done and get it all in there. I did, like I said, I spoke with Central Connecticut Health. We need, we can't use the porta potties, except maybe, she said, if we roll in one of those that you see the fancy ones that have a flush toilet and water, because you need that.
Questions, John?
Yeah, I know you mentioned it, and maybe I probably missed this. What was the requirement from the state to why we needed to have plumbing again?
It's part of the building code,
And is that
use
because,
group. It's,
Is that
International Building Code, I think they call it,
is that because of the size
The use.
or just the use?
Use.
The use. Okay, so the size.
It's a place of gathering, so a place of gathering has to have the proper facilities, ADA compliant.
Okay.
If it's just a barn that we're just gonna have cows or storage or hay, then you don't have to meet that.
And then with the idea around use, have there been discussions based on, again, how we're using it in correlation to the size? Because I know you were mentioning the size. There's going to be a cost, it's cost prohibitive based on going any bigger than a 24 by 40, but can it go smaller, for example, based on how we're using it?
We could, part of the goal is to have like a classroom setting. That's something we could look at. I'm not sure
Still
how
need
much,
all the same
yeah, you're
things.
still gonna need all that same infrastructure.
Because that's all new costs that we're realizing.
It'll be cost, but I don't think, because it's basically just a shell, I don't think it's gonna, shrinking, it's gonna decrease it that much, per se.
But as you see, where I'm getting at is
Yeah, no, I get
how we're
it.
using it,
Right.
depending on the size.
I know, it's,
Because this is a new cost,
yeah, the big cost is that septic, like I said, $20,000 to $30,000 probably.
and how do we offset that
Yeah.
based on the size?
And for limited use, it's, it's a seasonal use, kind of like a pool. But,
But have there been discussions based on how we're using it in general?
yeah,
for that size?
it's, like I said, the building code is by use, and they have different use categories, because you have to be permitted, of course. And other than just straight storage, basically everything needs facilities.
And I apologize, what I meant was, we've talked about how we're going to be using the barn in general.
Well, I think it's meant for a gathering space for educational purposes.
It's just
To have
purely,
students.
purely it, nothing else
Yeah.
was discussed around that, okay. That's all I got.
What do we have, or what was down by the ferry where you have, they're kind of permanent portable toilets that are near the ferry?
That's actually a permanent toilet that's there now.
The ones that are near not the one across the street, but the ones that are near, like, where the boat launch is in the parking lot.
In the parking lot, yes, so that was designed and built by the state, and it is a permanent sanitary facility. It doesn't move,
So,
and the way that one's built, it's to, it's flood, not proof, but it's meant to take water through it.
but is that kind of facility an option to a septic? Or is that even, I mean, I guess
Well, it's going to
because
be,
of
it'd
the
be even
flood.
more expensive, because it's hooked to sanitary sewer.
Oh, okay, so it is hooked.
Yeah, it's there's no leaching or anything. It's sanitary.
Okay, so is there an option, I mean, and I'm not sure if we can get a waiver or something, but if we anticipate this will be used, a couple class trips, couple markets, I don't know, concert,
Yeah.
like that, maybe a couple times a year, are we able to bring in those types of things?
You can bring them in. Yeah, it's just cost.
Yeah. Because, like people have an outdoor wedding in the backyard, but not the
Correct.
upscale ones. I
But
don't know.
it's a one and done. This is being
Yeah.
built. We're getting permits, and it's unfortunately, it's what we have to go through. It's just it's a town facility. We're opening to maybe not to the public, but for school functions and all that kind of thing.
Yep. And so we have about 120 within the grant. Is there do we need to accomplish a certain scope of work within that grant, or can we use that to potentially augment or I guess, do we have to show some level of completion in order to receive that money from the state?
That's something we're gonna have to broach with them. I mean, we have 125 for the barn.
Mm-hmm.
We were not anticipating the facilities until we spoke to the building official in the health department, and they said, "Oh yeah, you gotta have them." So. I know, let me interject, but it's not a permanent, again, it's a temporary facility. Like if you've ever been out to, say, the Farmington Polo Grounds, they roll those facilities in for their functions and they leave. But they also don't have a permanent building that you're going in. It's tented things and caterers, and then they wrap it up at the end of the year and they go away.
Because I do think it's not, I mean, if it is essentially in the future going to function similarly as a park, where maybe the barn is only used a couple times, but people might be going there for the community gardens, people are going down there to walk around the trails, like having a public bathroom there
Would be nice.
would be nice, and it does make sense at some level, especially if the kids are going to be involved. But I don't know if that's,
What-
I imagine those facilities are by themselves not very cheap, and that part might have to stay unlocked versus a larger building.
So this is where, we're trying to figure out ways to do this. This might be, we rough in, we box out the spot where we're going to put it, but we're not going to put a septic or any of that. Build the barn, and then if you're going to be having these school trips, plan when it's going to be. You roll in that portable facility for that week or 2 weeks or whatever, do your thing, roll it off. I don't know what they cost to rent, no idea.
I mean, that makes sense if we're able to complete.
Then you can get the barn done.
Yeah, we can work towards a grant or something else to finish the rest of it. It would be, I understand that we want to keep an eye on our costs, but it would be a shame to scale it down so much
Right.
that if it's successful, we find out, actually, we need a little bit more, and then
Yeah,
we're not
then
going to
it's-
tear it down and rebuild it.
Yeah, we don't want to build a shed.
Yeah.
One more question. I know you didn't know the answers, I think you mentioned that earlier, but are we looking back at, like, say, the Clatter Farms or the Barnyard to see if those kits are including the whole
So that kit, I have the quote right here, so I can tell you. It included the building kit, the roofs, all the things for building codes like hurricane clips and that kind of thing, because it has to be designed for a certain wind speed and such. Doors, no shutters was specified, architectural shingles. Cupola.
We can't use the one for
And it-
in storage?
It's probably too big. And foundation, they did quote a foundation.
And,
So, and that was the $86,000, or $85,000.
but they don't have any kits that are already prepped for plumbing?
No, no.
Anything like that?
Yeah, that's all custom when you get into that.
Building off that question, just when we say kit, does that include assembly of the kit? Or could we potentially, okay, so the assembly, we'd have a contractor do it, but
Be-
potentially we could work with someone if they wanted to give the town a discount?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this was just the
Raw
parts.
costs.
Raw costs, yeah. Yeah,
Chris?
I do now.
yeah, and really for a facility, you just gotta say, I need a spot that's, 6 by 6 or 6 by 8 or whatever. Box it out, frame it out, and call it a day, and then you just leave, the area that you're gonna need plumbed. Maybe rough in the pipes and the drain and just leave it untapped.
But do we have a quote on what it would take to build the kit?
No, this is all,
They don't separate it, is that what you mean?
yeah, no, that's why we'd have to bid it.
Okay, so that's materials and someone else would.
Materials, yes. And again, this is from 2000, I think, you got it? I don't see the date.
That was
2000.
2 years ago.
Yeah, 2000.
2020.
Sandy?
Well, this is a separate topic, I think, from the barn.
Before we then move to another topic. So all I was going to say is, we always knew it was going to be phases. So, I think what we want to do, and we can discuss it again as we go down, but based on the grant that was accepted by the state, we kind of want to see if we can get them to give us a little bit more for inflation.
That'd be great.
But, so we want to grab capacity. So whatever's going to fit there, if we can build a bigger pad with the conduit and the portals for hookup in the
Yep.
future, boom, done. And then put the biggest barn that the 120 or the 130 or the 160, whatever
Sure.
they go up to,
Sure.
on it.
Yeah,
All right? Now we've got our presence. Now
Yeah.
it's for other phases to
Right,
come
to-
up with
to get
money
in.
and do
Yep.
whatever they got to do to kind of keep it going. But at least we don't limit ourselves, unless we're trying to bring a classroom online in 2 years and then we got to go small.
right. 24 by 40, I just happened to be this past weekend, a friend of mine bought a new house, it's basically an old farm, and she has a barn that's like, I pasted off as 36 by 50. It's huge. But the main part is basically a 2-car garage, 24 feet wide by 36 deep, and that was pretty big. You could put a couple classrooms,
Yeah.
classroom full of people in there, so I think it'd be a decent size. The best thing to do is if we could take a road trip or field trip to see some of these things, to get an estimate of size before we just commit.
Yeah, we don't, as a committee, have a charge to get, to get a classroom up and going by a certain time.
Right,
It's always been an educational,
Yep.
for our school system, our kids, our high school, our middle school, our kids, an agricultural kind of classroom environment, right? So it doesn't have to be fancy, but I do think if we can work towards the largest that we can possibly get for the town.
Right.
And then it'll be up to future committees and councils and budgets to try to finish
Plumb it.
building it out
Yeah.
and get it online,
Yeah.
And that, but, I would, I don't know, I'm looking for you guys to say otherwise, but I think build capacity and then, unless for some reason too big is too big, it's beyond our means,
I agree with you, aside from the fact that we have to consider heating, air conditioning, electricity.
I don't think you need air
I don't
conditioning.
think we need
Okay,
any of
but
that.
you know, utilities, of
Yeah.
and when you
Heat,
increase the
electricity.
size. But don't we all know when we've done an addition or whatever in our houses, we always say, God, I wish I went a little bigger, I
Yeah.
wish I did this. So now's our opportunity to do that. So I agree, the biggest thing we could put on a pad, we may take us a longer time to complete it, but who knows what's down the pipe? Who knows what kind of funding is out there?
Right.
And we all have folks speaking in our ears, out in the public, and I've heard that, like, okay, let's get the biggest pad in there. So could it support the 40 or 60?
We're putting in a pad basically
And-
40 by 60.
And,
Wow.
and, yeah, so then maybe a little bit larger than 40 by 60, so there's a ridge around it.
Yeah.
And then the 40 by 60, could it be post and beam, because it does represent our town, and, again, I don't know if it's gonna fit into that budget or not, or can they scale it back to, you got the small side is 2440, but maybe they'll come in at 3050 or something,
Yeah.
But giving us the most that we can get, but still do the post and beam and maybe the metal roof, because we can get the time out of it, the
Right.
durability out
Right.
of it.
Yeah, metal roofs are nice.
It would be a
Snow
smart
slides right off.
investment.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, it'll be up to other budgets and other
Mm-hmm.
folks to try to finish dealing with it, but, anyway, yeah.
Just for a point of reference, I did some searching on the internet. I did find some other companies, not here in Connecticut, but nationwide, and they're selling, like, here's one that was a 36, I think this was 36 square. This was, I think last year I did this, $95,000 or $94,000.
Yeah, there you go.
36 square with a cupola and the doors, and it's just you got to. I'm not sure where they're out of, but then you got to get it here and assemble it.
Yeah, I'm thinking, the post and beam, the metal roof, the loft,
Yep.
okay? But the window, we probably could put our own shutters on. And we
Yes.
probably could outfit it with a better door
Yep.
down the road, right? A barn door that that suits our purpose and our need. So there's probably things that we can do on the cheaper after we have the facility, so I think what the committee's saying is, let's try to get the most bang for the buck, and then, and
Yeah.
it's work in progress, and we're okay with phases.
And let's give the town something that we can be proud of when they look at it, not saying, well, I can see where they cut corners.
Right.
Construction. Let's do it the best we
Yeah,
can.
because we can
this
put
should
up a
be
metal
for
building and get
20 years.
it
Yeah.
all ready to go, and then you got a metal building.
Yeah, it's a metal building, right. I did find, there's one that's been around for years, I think it's called Morton, and they have the metal buildings, and of course, it's going to be less, but it's still a Butler building, metal building.
It goes back to the original question of the requirements of use, right? We're using this thing for something, and we're not sure what we're going to be using it for in the future, or we're preparing for something that we haven't thought of today. That's why I asked the question of, have we had that discussion based on how we want to use it? But that requirement dictates how we want to build it, right? So, and I know we're cost prohibitive, but I like the idea of preparing, for the best. Staying within our budget if we could, but preparing for the best. But the other question that came to mind too is seasonal. So we can't do this year round.
You can, but then you have to heat. So you might have to heat it anyways, because usually, if occupancy, like if
Water,
you're living there,
if
you
you're gonna
need.
leave the water on, you gotta have it heated, yeah.
Yeah, otherwise you got to drain it down, which isn't a big deal. You just got to make
Yeah.
sure you drain it down, like a camp.
Just curious, because that way it'll feed into, again, if we're going larger, then
Yeah.
we can use it for other reasons.
Yeah, because, I'm not sure if this is what was in the application for the grant or not, but as a top priority is the creation of a barn structure for educational purpose and supporting a community garden in a centralized, highly visible location for use by the community with a strong sense of entry and a park identity with ADA compliant access and plenty of parking. So that was
Yeah, that's what.
That's kinda like the mission statement.
Educational is
Covers
the main thing.
education and the community gardens.
Is the theme, and, but,
I kind of envision, this is me, but you have some like farm table, garden tables, and the kids, when the kids were young, they had the Dixie cups, and they put so boom, they go in there and do that, and then they bring them home.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm,
It's educational.
educational component is kind of what I
It's
say.
not all sitting in a row and
Right,
and
right.
looking at a
You know,
poster
hands-on.
board. Yeah.
Again, why you need water, clean them up when they're done.
Yeah, I do think we could get creative as well. I mean, we could have potentially, as another potential forum to have the town have events there. People might want to rent it out. I mean, I don't know how much.
Well, then that gets into a different use, and then you
That's
really
not
have,
able to- okay.
that's a lot.
But we could have a town event that, that we could have other
Yeah.
purposes there. And it is going to be, there are park aspects, to it. Our other parks don't close in the wintertime. It's actually getting warmer now in December. People might want to go out and, at their own risk, maybe not need access to the building, but still, be there on the site. So, yeah, I think planning for multi-use, casting as wide a net as we can, because we don't want to limit ourselves in the future, and also making sure the materials that we're using have an eye on maintenance, because that's going to be a portion of that as well. We certainly don't want to cut any corners and create any headaches for the staff that's going to have to maintain it in the future. And then in terms of just when we are going to say it's safe for the public to access, I mean, I think that might be one of the phases too, where at some point if people, understanding that we're going to have community gardens and a trail and all these other things that are just going to evolve for the next several years, at some point I think people are going to want to go and check it out, see how it's cleaned, have their lunch there, and they watch the crops growing across the stream. We should probably set some expectation of how we're going to direct people to the parts that are open, and then other parts where they're not allowed to go, especially once it's cleared. Like, it's going to look like it's a place where people are going to be able to go. So we need to think about how do we manage that. And people did invest a lot of money in it, so we don't want people going there when they could wreck on a project or when it's not safe. But there might be some milestone we hit where it's not fully done, but people can still go there and enjoy how nice it looks now, especially compared to what it was in the springtime.
We could have like a spring open house day. And then again, barricade the entrances for safety.
All right.
That's all I have on that.
There is no other business.
I have an
Do you have
issue.
other-
Mr. Chairman, may I make one clarification about the website that I know she's probably going to discuss? The attachment that I believe she's referring to,
So Sandy
This-
Kelly, yep.
yes, this one, the Straska project. So this is just the attachment that was accompanying the minutes that's referenced on page 2. It's not anything new, and it's the same attachment that you guys saw on the June 27th meeting. That's why all the changes that Sandy referenced in the minutes haven't been made. That's not, I just want you guys to think that is something that's new that I sent to you. It's the same thing you saw in June with all the grammatical errors and everything that was in it before.
So thank you, Daniel. My concern is that, are we going to make these changes? I mean, it's been 2 months, we're seeing the same text, it's inaccurate, and this is, we want to have pride in our work, that what we put out there for everybody to look at is accurate. Things like the garden club has not agreed to maintain the gardens, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, thank you so much for clarifying. I don't want to take everybody's time with that, but I think it matters to all of us that it's accurate. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
I
Okay.
do think we should get just an update on what the plan is for that. Maybe not tonight, but the farm now has a name, so that might be a good time to maybe put it even more prominently on the site. And with that history, after it's been vetted, that and the right information's on there. But I don't think we want to forget about it, because we get a lot of questions, and it would be good for folks to be able to.
Forget about what?
That attachment that was drafted, that was the draft of what the material was going to go on the website. It summarizes the history of the farm and that type of thing. That's what Commissioner Kelly had been providing feedback on. So I'm not sure when we're planning on posting that, but we shouldn't just, put it off to the side. It'd be good to get the right information out there, so if people have questions, we can direct them right there.
There might, thank you, to add to Commissioner Duff, we might want to add a brief list of FAQs. I mean, like, when can I walk on the property? Well, we'll let you know, but we do want to plant something, Can I have a garden on there? Yes, we hope to, and we're going to show a layout. Simple things, just so that people think they're being heard ahead of time, or or we're predicting their concerns, and we're concerned for them.
Okay. All set, John?
Is that, we're good?
No, no other business? Then to entertain a motion to adjourn?
Have a motion to adjourn?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.